Booktube. So another beautiful day out today. A little chilly though. In fact, it's even colder in the house. So I came outside because it feels nice and warm in the sun. And I thought I'd read Seance. Then I came across this line in the book. I was sitting in the garden with my book upon my lap, not reading or even thinking, but simply absorbing the warmth of the sun. Yeah, that was weird. I really need to invest in a tripod so I don't have to kneel on the floor all the time. But anyway, I did finish a couple, actually 3 books since I last uploaded. And 2 of them were audiobooks in the Fringe series. This is Fringe Station. This is the second book in the series, the Fringe series by Rachel Akkus. And then I also finished Fringe Campaign. Oopsie. Come back. Yeah, Fringe Campaign. It's sort of a space opera about humans that have kind of moved beyond Earth. They've colonized outer planets. They've gone beyond Mars and Europa and kind of beyond the reaches of Earth's governing body. So they created their own governing body known as the Collective. The people on its planets are known as citizens. And then when people moved even beyond that into outer planets, they referred to them as the fringe planets. The Collective kind of ruled over them. And that caused a bit of strife because they looked down on the fringe planets and the people there, and they governed with a hard hand, taxations and things like that, that caused an uprising, which apparently failed. We find that out in the first book. Our main character, Captain Aramis Rain, was unjustly labeled a traitor to the Torrents, which are the group of people that, like the uprising, the rebels, they're known as the Torrents. And you'll find out why they're known as Torrents. But he was falsely accused of being a traitor, and that's kind of stuck with him ever since. So he just wanted to get away from everybody. He and his ragtag crew on board the ship, the Griffin, along with his adopted daughter, who's paraplegic, but also one of the best pilots anywhere. Her name is Throttle. They become fringe runners. And those are people that are like the Galactic Post Office. They kind of ferry supplies back and forth between the planets. And one of the packages end up kind of leading them into this kind of thing that's spiraling into another uprising. What we find mostly in Fringe Station is a lot of, as these uprising is starting to gather speed, they're trying to gather recruits and things like that. I felt this one was a little bit slow compared to the first book. A lot of this kind of just going around trying to get people to join up and everything. And then Fringe Campaign, I thought kind of stepped things up a little bit. There's a little bit more of my favorite character, Throttle, in this one. She is a character that appeared in the trilogy Flight of the Javelin by Rachel Akkus, which I kind of finished that before I finished this. So I'm kind of backtracking on her storyline, but I'm still really enjoying the entire series. But I'm going to take a bit of a break for my audiobooks. I've got 2 more to finish the series, but I'm going to switch over to something else, which I'll talk about in just a moment. The other book I finished was The Seance by John Harwood. This is the alternate cover, which is so much nicer than this super dark cover that I have, the tree or something in it. Anyway, it's a Victorian Gothic thriller. It features our main character, Constance, who, when she was 5 years old, lost her sister, who was 2, to scarlet fever. And it's kind of put a division between her parents. Her mother's never stopped grieving. She's just stays in her room all the time, in deep depression, and she doesn't know what to do to pull her out of it. It seems like it doesn't matter that she's still around, all her love and all her thoughts were focused on the girl that she lost. So At one moment when she's older and she's still dealing with this, she decides to try and the seances are kind of big in this time period, and she decides to kind of pretend that like maybe her sister is speaking through her, and then her mother just kind of perks up and is just like, she always wanted to attend one of these seances, but her husband said she would leave her if she did that. So they end up sneaking out and going to a seance, and that ends up kind of spiraling into this tragic event where the mother finally finds peace, but by taking her own life. So right after that, she gets a bequest. She hears from her mother's brother, who was estranged from her, telling her that she has now inherited this kind of rundown mansion known as Rexford Hall. And a lawyer by the name of John Montague comes to talk to her about it and kind of tries to dissuade her from going there, leaves her a letter saying, don't even visit the place, burn it down, sell it, whatever. But he gives this narrative of kind of the history of the place, his experiences with it and the people that lived there, and the strange events that took place. You come across mysterious disappearances, murder, someone accused of that murder who Constance will try to end up trying to defend because she feels that this person is not guilty. Questions of identity. There's a whole lot of things kind of going on there. A little bit of a, creepiness factor with this hall, whether it's, haunted or not. So there's a lot of really good things going on in it, a really good deep mystery that our main characters got to kind of resolve. And there's told through I think 3 or 4 different narratives within the book. And I thought that was going to be kind of jarring, but I actually liked it. I liked the different perspectives. And I thought it was really quite good. This is like the 3rd novel I read by him, and I really, really enjoyed it. So moving on to what I'm currently reading, I was looking for something else in something classical I wanted to read. Haven't had any classics this year, so I picked up one I had bought quite a while ago by Mary Shelley. All I've ever read by her is Frankenstein. I don't really know her for anything else other than Frankenstein. So I had this book called The Last Man, which is sort of it's described as a early dystopian tale of classic science fiction, of a plague that seems to nearly wipe out man. Let's see. It says it's a powerful post-apocalyptic tale and precursor to the much later science fiction novels of H.G. Wells, George Orwell, Philip K. Dick, and Harlan Ellison, among others. Overshadowed by the titanic success of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's neglected masterpiece tells of the future laid waste by plague. Lionel Varney, an indolent nobleman, is immune to the savage effects of the disease, having been bitten by an early victim. Varney is forced to watch the long decline of civilization as humanity sinks slowly into extinction. So I picked up the book thinking, yeah, I'll read that. I feel like it's time. I'm in the mood for that, gothic, sci-fi, dark fantasy. And then I just kind of picked up the book and I was just going to read maybe the beginning of it. And then I looked at the text and I'm like, why on earth did I buy this? I don't know if you can see that, how small the text is and the spacing between the lines, not to mention how the words disappear into the gutter. I mean, you practically have to pull the book back all the way to the edge. There's hardly any border along this thing, and it's just, boy, every page is like that. It's just crazy. I need a magnifying glass to read this thing. So instead, I went on Audible and I looked for an audio version of it. There were 2, one read by a woman, one read by a man. I just did the sample of it and I liked the one read by the man, so I'm currently listening to it. Language-wise, it's a bit stuffy, classical, kind of getting a little hard to get into it, but I'm plodding along. We'll see. Nothing drastically severe or plague-related has even happened yet. I've been listening to it for at least a couple days, but that's my current audiobook and The Last Man. And then I also still felt like picking up a bound version of a classic of some sort. And being summer, I wanted a big summer read. I don't know if you're like that. I just felt in the mood for something big to really sink my teeth into. So I looked through some of the large books I have and just kind of did a little, first paragraph or so read. I picked up the Our Mutual Friend by Charles Dickens. Pretty decent size. This is a real nice little edition. Text isn't too bad. But yeah, I've heard really good things about that. We the Drowned by Carsten Jensen, kind of a seafaring novel. Kind of in the mood for something along that lines too. So there's that. I've also been wanting to read the Bounty Trilogy. This is by Charles Nordhoff. This is quite a nice little edition. I can't remember quite where I got it, but I remember the dust jacket was really falling apart, so I just literally just taped over it. Probably if I had bought it at Half Price Books, I would have just put Mylar on it, but oh well. I think it was probably a library edition, so then I don't have Mylar at home. This is 1948. This is really nice. It's got the N.T. Wyeth illustrations in it. A real nice edition. So I thought about that one, but then I ended up choosing this one, and this is one I did remember getting at a library. It didn't have a dust jacket. It was just literally black boards, and this is by R.F. Delderfield, called To Serve Them All My Days. And it kind of bugged me that it had no cover, so I literally went on Goodreads, found an image of a cover, printed it up, and just taped it right on the book. So now I have a cover. Unfortunately, it cut off the author's name at the bottom front here, but if you can see that, just people cheering in the streets here, like a bunch of schoolboys from a boarding school. Let me get a good description of this one. Goodreads description of the book. It says, young David Powlett Jones, a Welsh miner's son, is invalided home from France when he suffers severe shell shock on the Western Front. At a remote English public school in Devon, the debilitated veteran, himself barely out of his teens, decides temporarily to try his hand at teaching while striving to awaken from the nightmare of World War I, the national catastrophe that sweeps England out of the comfortable certainties of the Victorian age into the moral perplexities and harsh economic realities of modern times. So it's his kind of journey, kind of back to reality, I guess, back to normal life as best he can. Finding love, finding interest in school, just finding his feet back under him. And I found out that there's actually a 13-part miniseries of this available on YouTube that you can watch. And I've already watched the first 2 parts, kind of the equivalent of where I am within the book right now. And it's actually quite good. I'm enjoying it all. It says here at the very beginning, from the author, a kind of qualified disclaimer. Almost every writer of fiction inserts the obligatory disclaimer in his work, and some, I suspect, do it with tongue-in-cheek. The truth is, of course, no one ever invented anyone. Every character in fiction is an amalgam of factors drawn from the author's memory and imagination, and this in particular is true of To Serve Them All My Days. No character here is a true portrait of or caricature of any master or boy I ever encountered at my 6 schools and 1 commercial college between 1917 and 1929. But aspects of people I met are embodied in all of them, and I have even used nicknames I recalled, as well as several scholastic backgrounds. To write fiction in any other way would be to divorce oneself from reality, and what kind of book would emerge from that? In using, say, an average of 6 schoolmasters and 6 boys for every one between these pages, I intended no slight or criticism, only to portray life at school as I saw it up to 1940, when I had entered my 29th year. I was glad to leave 5 of the 6 schools, but there is one I still regard with great affection. I leave it to the reader to sort the wheat from the chaff. So it is sort of basically semi-autobiographical about his time as a schoolmaster after returning from the war. So yeah, I'm actually finding it quite entertaining, and yeah, that's kind of what I'm reading right now. My physical book and my audiobook. What you guys reading? Hope it's something good. Let me know down below. Bye-bye.